What is the best dual cab ute that you can buy in 2023? Well, until now, the answer's been easy. It's the Ford Ranger. Ford's new ute absolutely smashed all of its rivals in our recent dual cab ute mega test. But now, there is a new player in the segment. This is the new second generation Volkswagen Amarok. And if you know your dual cabs, you'll know that it was co-developed with the Ranger. And Volkswagen actually says that this ute is superior in a couple of key ways. So is the Amarok now the new benchmark in this class? Well, it's now on sale in Australia, so today we're going to try and find out. Okay, so in this video, we're going to do our usual deal. We'll have a look at the full Amarok range, talk pricing, spec levels, jump in the cabin, have a look at the cabin, also talk about the engine lineup, and of course, we'll look at the all-important tray and check out its off-road credentials. Then we'll take it for a drive. But before all of that, you guys know the deal. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Volkswagen is offering the Amarok across 5 trim levels. Prices start at $52,990 before on-road costs for the entry-level Amarok Core, which is available solely with a 2-litre single-turbo diesel. The mid-spec life and style can be had with either a more powerful 2-litre bi-turbo diesel or a 3-litre turbo V6, which produces 184 kilowatts and 600 newton meters. There are 2 flagship trim levels. The off-road focused Panamericana, which can be had with only the V6 diesel, or the more luxury focused Aventura, which is available with either the V6 diesel or a 2.3-litre turbo petrol engine. The petrol engine is the same 4-cylinder unit found in some Mustang models, and it produces 222 kilowatts and 452 newton meters. And it also gives the Amarok a unique point of difference to its rivals, which are diesel only.
If you can hear my teeth chattering, I'm sorry about that. It is freezing here out where we are testing the ute today. But important, the car that we have here is the mid-spec style. This one has the 3-litre V6, and the reason that we've chosen it for the video is Volkswagen says this is going to be the most popular variant throughout the lineup. I think around 60% of sales are going to be this ute right here. Pricing, $71,000 before on-road costs. I'll put a graphic up on screen that shows you the exact, I think it's $79.90 thereabouts. So it's not exactly what you would call cheap, but nothing is anymore. Try buying some iceberg lettuce. But anyway, you are getting a lot of equipment and a lot of ute for your cash. Let's talk through some of the key details. So every version of the Amarok, no matter which one you go for, has LED headlights. But from the mid-spec style and above, that's when things get more premium. So the headlights you're getting are matrix LEDs. That means you can mask out oncoming cars, which is a really cool feature. And also important to note, so if you look at this ute and you think, oh, it's just a Ranger with a Volkswagen badge instead of a Ford badge, that's not true, because every single exterior panel, except for the roof, is unique. And I personally think Volkswagen's done a really good job with the exterior design. I kind of like the squared off wheel arches, which are uniquely Volkswagen. That's a signature for them. I also like the alloy designs. This car has the 18-inch alloys as standard, all-terrain tires. We've got them a little bit dirty, as you can see from there. But if this wheel looks a little bit small to you, have no fear, because you can go 21-inch alloys on the top spec Aventura model, 21 inches on a dual cab ute. Crazy or inspired? Let me know in the comments. Down the side, you get side steps as standard and privacy glass on this spec. You also get a stainless steel sports bar there, and around the back, you get a tow bar, of course. Now let's talk about the tray, the all-important tray. For this generation of Amarok, the actual volume of the tray has increased a little bit, 3.5%, I think. But where you're really seeing an improvement for this generation of ute is in terms of the features that you're getting. So you now have 6 tie-down points instead of 4 like the old one, and you get a couple of LED lights here on each side. The style does get a drop-in bed liner, but upper spec versions do get a spray-in bed liner as well. And importantly, you can still fit a full-size Euro pallet between the wheel arches. I know that was one thing that previous Amarok owners have absolutely loved, so it's good to see that that feature has carried over for this new generation. Inside, Volkswagen's design team has worked really hard to make the new Amarok feel properly premium, and I think they've achieved exactly that. They're really proud of these seats, and I can see why. the bolstering in particular and the density of the foam. I'm getting into the nerdy details now, but that is something you notice and will appreciate on the day-to-day. The other thing you notice immediately is how nice this steering wheel is. It's such an important touch point that you interact every time you drive the car, and this is certainly superior to the wheel you get in a Ford Ranger. Obviously though, there's a lot of commonality with a Ford Ranger in terms of basic architecture. That is not a bad thing, guys, because the Ford Ranger has the best cabin in its class. In terms of tech, it's also class leading as well. We get a large 12-inch portrait-style central touchscreen here in the mid-spec style and above. Lower spec versions get a slightly smaller touchscreen there. And you also have a fully configurable 12.3-inch digital driver's display ahead of the driver. In terms of storage, we've got twin glove boxes here, one on top, one below. There's a wireless charging pad ahead of the shifter that you can use as storage or to charge your phone, of course. And the door bins are pretty generous, and we have 2 cup holders here and another little cubby here at my left elbow. In terms of little foibles, I've only noticed a couple of things. One is Volkswagen has buried the control function for the fan speed of the air conditioning inside a menu. So you've got to push the menu for the aircon and then adjust it on a slider here. Not a deal breaker by any means, but it's a little less intuitive than the Ford system, which always has the fan speed controller here at your fingertips. They've also removed the button for the stop-start system for the engine. They've buried that into a system inside the infotainment there, which is kind of a Volkswagen party piece at the moment, trying to put all things in the center screen. Not a deal breaker, like I said, but a little bit annoying. In terms of general quality, fit and finish though, it is really nice in here for a dual cab ute. Some of the materials on the dash are nice and soft. It does feel nice and premium. Perhaps the only thing that erodes the sensor quality a little bit is the tactility of this dial for the 4x4 modes. I don't know, to my mind it feels a teensy bit cheap, but again, I'm really nitpicking there because all up, this cabin does feel like a properly premium ute and definitely class leading. In the back seats, you're going to be pleased to know that you do get more room here compared to the previous generation Amarok. So we now are on a longer wheelbase. That translates to more room for rear seat passengers. As you can see, I'm sat behind my own driving position. I am 6'1", 6'2", and I only have just enough knee room. So you can fit adults behind one another here, but it's not exactly what I would call super spacious, but it is nice and comfortable. The seat itself, again, pretty comfy for a bench seat in a dual cab ute. I like these little sort of bolstered sections across the backrest, and the seat base is pretty good for under thigh support, especially for somebody that's on the taller side. Amenity-wise, you looked after as well. The all-important air vents here for rear seat passengers. If you've got kids, you know how important they are. And in terms of connectivity, I can't find any USB outlets back here, but there is a 12-volt socket at the rear of the center console. Map pockets in each of the back seats. And we have got other little pockets here, which I don't know about you guys, but I use that to put a phone there when I'm driving my daughter to play school. Door bins, they're okay. They're not huge. A 600ml water bottle will fit in there quite snugly, but anything above that won't really fit. In terms of other storage, you've got a couple of cubbies beneath the base of this seat. And we have a center armrest with 2 other cup holders here. In terms of child seats, ISOFIX mounting points on each of the outboard seats and top tethers for those as well.
The Amarok is currently the safest dual cab ute you can buy. It was awarded a 5-star safety rating by ANCAP in April 2023, and the breakdown of its crash rating was narrowly superior to the Ford Ranger upon which it's based. Every Amarok is fitted with 9 airbags. That includes one between the front seats, which prevents head clashes, and also side airbags. A host of active safety systems are also available, and we've listed the main ones here. A quick word on servicing. The Amarok requires a trip to the dealer every 12 months or 15,000 Ks, and it's covered by a 5-year capped price servicing scheme that limits the cost of each visit to between $329 and $414.
Okay, so what is the new Volkswagen Amarok like to drive? This bit is really important because the previous ute, the first gen Amarok, had a reputation as being best in class when it came to driving dynamics. And the good news is that first impressions, at least, show that this new version of the Amarok has lost none of that goodness when it comes to how it rides and handles. This is a really nice dual cab ute to drive. First thing you notice is the seating position and the seat itself. The seat is really good. Lots of lateral support. Volkswagen's quite proud of these seats, and I can see why. The second thing you notice is just how quiet it is in here for a dual cab ute. You know, I'm not shouting. I'm speaking quite quietly, actually. Hopefully you can hear me. And the refinement and the noise, vibration, and harshness repression in here is really impressive. You could easily jump in one of these and drive for hours and hours and hours, pop out at the other end and not feel overly tired or fatigued. So big tick in that regard. Now, engines. Volkswagen only has one of the 2-litre bi-turbo 4 cylinders here on the launch, and I haven't driven it yet. So make sure you check out my written review for drive impressions of that powertrain. But we know what it's like. We've driven it in the Ford Ranger. We know that it's actually an excellent engine. Got lots of grunt, 500 Newton meters, and it pairs really nicely with the 10-speed auto. I would strongly recommend checking out the 2-litre. Save a bit of money at the pump, which is important for all of us these days, and you're not going to be towing on a regular basis. If you are going to be towing quite regularly, or you like a bit more grunt, this is probably the engine to go for. The one I'm in now is the 3-litre single-turbo diesel. It's pretty quiet. There's a little bit of rattling noise and intrusion, which you get from all diesel, sort of low in the rev range, but now I'm cruising along 100 k's an hour. It is quiet as a church mouse. From a standstill, it's also very impressive how it pairs with the 10-speed automatic. It just shifts really smartly and smoothly, so smoothly through all the ratios. Keeps the engine right in its sweet spot, sort of between 2 and 3,000 RPM. It's a great powertrain. Perhaps the most intriguing engine of the lot is the new 2.3-litre turbocharged petrol. It's a unique proposition in this class. Not many dual cab utes have turbocharged 4-cylinder petrols. That engine is only available in the very top spec model, which is a little bit of a shame actually that they've priced it only in a top end of the model range. But my first impression was it was quite different. Obviously, compared to this 3-litre diesel in particular, it's a little bit softer, low in the rev range. You kind of need to get it above to about 4,000 RPM before it starts to get moving. Once you do that, it's a really quick, responsive, impressive engine, as we know from the Mustang. Volkswagen says it's going to appeal to buyers looking to step into dual cabs that have previously owned Golfs, Tiguans, that kind of thing. And yeah, that logic stacks up for me. I can definitely see why that engine, that powertrain, would appeal to people used to sort of driving around the city with a quiet, refined, responsive petrol engine. In terms of how the 2.3-litre sounds, verdict's still out on that one for me. In some Mustang versions, it can sound quite fruity, but in the Amarok, there's a lot of induction noise, but there's not much in terms of an exhaust note, which originally I was a little bit disappointed in, but I'm pretty sure you can fix that quite quickly with a tweak to the exhaust of your own car if you were to buy that engine. In the initial 0 to 50 k's an hour, I think the diesel, with its low down torque, probably feels more muscular, but on the move, I think the petrol engine just might have the edge. It certainly has the edge when it comes to driving dynamics. So the first car I drove yesterday was a flagship Aventura with the 2.3-litre turbo petrol, and we drove it on Chum Creek Road. Now, if anyone familiar with Victoria, that is a really twisty, technical, really bumpy section of bitumen. So it was really interesting to drive that ute on that piece of road. You do notice there's less weight in the nose. And the Aventura, of course, is on the huge 21-inch wheels, and it's pretty impressive the amount of speed and confidence and grip that ute had for a dual cab. It was certainly head and shoulders above other Amaroks here on all-terrain tyres and that kind of thing, but I was really impressed with the dynamic cohesion, grip, and how much confidence you could carry and how much speed you could carry for a dual cab ute in that 2.3-litre Aventura with the 21-inch wheels. Even more impressive is how it deals with bigger bumps. So yesterday I hit a couple of really big potholes, and before I did, I kind of winced, sort of expecting these big 21-inch wheels to hammer home and jolt unpleasantly. But again, I was very impressed. It kind of just dealt with it, no big bang or shudder through the cabin. So initial impressions are the 21-inch wheels are pretty good. As for ride quality throughout the rest of the Amarok range, probably the pick for me, initially at least, I've only spent a little bit of time in each of them so far, is the Panamericana, because it gets the top spec suspension tune, but also rides on 18-inch alloys. So you get more squish in the sidewall of the tyre, and it's actually very compliant and surprisingly comfortable on really choppy Aussie back roads. The one thing that I'm not so sure about with this new generation Amarok is the steering. It's pretty good, it's naturally weighted, it feels nice and accurate, and once you have it loaded up into a corner, again, no qualms about it there. What my concern is there's a little bit of vagueness just off center, and that can make it a little bit tricky to judge how much lock you need to apply when you're going into corners. It's not an issue in day-to-day driving, it's nice and light, accurate like I said, but when you get onto faster Aussie back roads like this, I don't think it's quite as confidence inspiring as the steering you get in, say, a Ford Ranger. Overall though, this is a bloody nice dual cab ute to drive. It's quiet, it's comfortable, the engine lineup is nice and strong and responsive, and teaming up with the Ford Ranger has certainly done nothing to erode any of that dynamic goodness that we all loved about the first generation Amarok. If anything, it's made it better. Is the Amarok the new benchmark in the dual cab ute class? That's the question I asked at the beginning of the video, and I am tempted to go out onto a limb and say yes, it is, but I'm not going to, because what we really need to do is put this ute up against the Ford Ranger in the same conditions, and we do have plans to do that. We're going to do a head-to-head comparo in the coming weeks, so make sure you keep your eyes glued to whichcar.com.au soon for the definitive verdict. But what is obvious is that this new Amarok is a big improvement over its previous version. It's better to drive, the cabin is now really premium and luxurious, and the engine range is strong throughout, and it has that unique proposition of the 2.3 litre turbo. So is it 2023's best dual cab ute? If it's not, it's pretty bloody close.